Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. After finishing the discussion of the physiology of the renal system, in this section start to discussion the other organ of the body, which is the GIT, gastrointestinal tract physiology. It's also summarized in two lectures. In this lecture we start with the first lecture and the second lecture in the next week, inshallah. Gastrointestinal system or gastrointestinal tract. It is a hollow folded tube. This tube started from the mouth till anus. This tube folded and organized in different parts: mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, and also other organ like liver, pancreas, gallbladder. We'll discuss later on separately. This tract or this system have many functions. This function starts with ingestion of the food, digestion. Digestion is also the two parts: mechanical digestion and chemical digestion, with the different process occurring in each part of this system. Other important function, it is absorption of this material after processing of this material with the mechanical and the chemical digestion, undergone absorption to take the advantage of this substance. Other substance is elimination or expel of the feces, which is material not absorbed by the body. Some other important function of the GIT, it is the protection of the body from the different bacteria, and it's also occur in different parts, starting from the mouth by the saliva contain antibacterial, in the stomach contain high acidity, in the liver we will discuss later on the enterohepatic circulation and how it is to protect the body. So the GIT system consisting of hollow organ starting from the mouth to anus. Now we discussing general concept about the GIT, then we discuss each part separately. Starting with the motility of the GI tract. As we know, GI tract consisting of smooth muscle. Smooth muscle in the body differ. In smooth muscle in the GIT is differ by have gap junction in between these smooth muscle cells. This gap junction is very important. It is in continuity of the movement. When the movement starts in the different part, continue to the distal part by this gap junction, increasing singling, which is differ from other smooth muscle in other body, like in the eye, in other part, which is a contraction of this muscle, randomly. While here in the GIT, the contraction of the muscle, it is organized and continuous because of possessing special or unique criteria, which is the gap junction. The motility of the GI tract, it is can be divided in two parts: tonic and phasic. Tonic contraction, as understand from the tone, it is continuous contraction. This continuous contraction may continue for a minute or hour according to the function. It is mostly occur in the sphincter, like esophageal sphincter, gastric sphincter, ileocecal sphincter. Other sphincter in the body maintain a continuous tone to prevent passage of the food in other direction. Other type of the motility, it is the phasic. Phasic, it is alternating. From this phasic, this may be peristalsis, segmentation, and other type of the function of the motility is called the migratory motor complex, or MMC. In the peristalsis, the movement, in this movement type of the movement, this is important in the progression of the food from one part to other part. In this type of movement, as discussed in other picture, this as seen in this picture, this is the bolus of food. There is two parts. There is contracted part of the muscle, and this is the relaxed part of the muscle. The relaxed part of the muscle help to push down the bolus while also assisted by the contracted part. Then the relaxed part will also then contracted and pushing the bolus forward and forward as occur in this is example of the esophagus. The bolus will descend till reaching the lower esophageal sphincter and entering the stomach. Other type, which is called segmental or segmentation. In this type also there is contraction of the circular and longitudinal muscle of the tube of the GIT. But in this type of the movement, this is very important in the mixing of the content and more exposure of the content to the mucosa for more absorption. But in this type there is no forward movement like in the peristalsis. In the peristalsis there is continuous forward movement, while in this is very important in the mixing. This is different color indicate the different part of the material inside the intestine, and with the segmentation there is mixing of these particle together. Other, as this say in the previous slide, there is a different type of movement. This is different type of movement called migratory motor complex. This type of movement is like peristalsis, but it's occur in between the meal. Peristalsis and segmentation occur shortly after meal, shortly after taking the food, while the migratory motor complex, it is a series of peristalsis wave cycle occur in between the meal. The cycle repeat every 1/2 or 2 hour, but it is interrupted by food ingestion. When there is no food, there is migratory motor complex, while when there is food, there is either peristalsis or both peristalsis and segmentation. The migratory motor complex is important in the clean the excess bacteria and food that may stay in the digestive system and not pass to the distal part of the GIT. Now we discussing the blood supply of the GIT. Previously we discussing the blood supply of the renal system and how it is unique. Every organ in the body have unique blood supply, and the pattern of the blood supply differ from organ to organ. In the GIT also there is unique blood supply, unique pattern of the blood supply. The GIT is important organ of the body. The blood supply and the most organization of this of our processing of this food occur in the liver. So the liver supply by, as any organ, by the artery, which is the hepatic artery. But this hepatic artery is constitute only about 20%, 1/5 of the blood entering the liver. The other blood entering the liver coming from the portal vein. Portal vein is the vein collecting blood from the different part of the GIT, starting from the stomach, pancreas, small intestine, large intestine, and other accessory like spleen, collecting all of these blood. This blood is filled with the nutrition, filled with the absorbed material from the GIT, go to the liver for processing, for storage and control of passage of this material to the other blood in the body. So other unique or special character of the blood flow in the GIT or in the liver outside, there is no capillary network. There is only in the next slide we see and discuss also, there is no capillary blood supply to the GIT. It is from the 3 artery, which is directly from the aorta, celiac artery, which is supply stomach, other part of the accessory, which is pancreas, gallbladder, part of, and also and all the other different is superior mesenteric artery and inferior mesenteric artery. this the distribution of the supply by this artery, three arteries, it is according to the embryological distribution of the GIT. As in this, in the embryology there is hindgut, midgut. So the celiac artery and superior mesenteric artery and inferior mesenteric artery supply different part of the GIT according to the embryological origin of this part. In this slide we can see also there is this is the aorta, and from the aorta this is the hepatic artery. Hepatic artery constitutes about only 20% of the blood entering the liver, and this is the vein collected from the spleen, from the other part of the alimentary tract, to collecting in the portal vein. Portal vein while entering the liver. In the liver there is hepatic sinusoid. In the hepatic sinusoid there is mixing of the blood from the different part of the alimentary tract with the blood from the hepatic artery, and then the blood passing through the hepatic vein to the vena cava. Hepatic artery supply the oxygen to the liver, while the portal vein supply the nutrition. Very important that absorbed from the GIT, these substance in the passes absorbed from the GIT and reached to the liver through the portal vein are processed. About 1/2 to 2/3 of these substance will store, and not all absorbed substance from the GIT will reach directly to the blood system. Most of this substance will stored, processed in the liver. From this slide also we can see this is the portal vein, this is the hepatic artery, the blood mixing, this is hepatocyte, the blood fold or passes between the cell of the liver, which is the hepatocyte. In between this cell there is no capillary network till reaching the central vein, and from the central vein hepatic vein passes to the inferior vena cava. And there is important portals, important system as we know there is hypertension of the blood system as a whole. There is hypertension of the something we discussing in the respiratory system. May blood pressure increase only in the respiratory system. Also some condition there is increase in the blood pressure of the portal system, and it is have different sign as symptom. We will know in the next stage of your study. Now after this we will discussing the innervation of the GIT. GIT, like any organ, have an extrinsic nerve supply. Extrinsic nerve supply coming from the sympathetic and parasympathetic. Parasympathetic by the vagal pathway. This is pathway mediated by the cholesterol, while sympathetic by adrenaline. Parasympathetic supply and sympathetic supply most of the organ in the GIT. Parasympathetic mostly stimulate or increase the activity of the GIT, while the sympathetic mostly inhibit the activity of the GIT. Other type of the innervation of the GIT, it is called intrinsic. It is unique part specialized for the GIT. This is called enteric nervous system. It is type of the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system divided into sympathetic and parasympathetic, and also a different entity which is enteric nervous system. The enteric nervous system is very complex. It is contain about 500 million neurons. This number, it is about 5 times neuron of the human spinal cord. It is important. It is large neuron, large number, and it's extending to supply the GIT starting from the esophagus till reaching the anus. This type of the innervation, it's also divided into two parts or distributed in two levels of the layers of the GIT. The first one, it's called Erbach plexus, or sometimes called myenteric plexus. This type of the innervation, this is the layer of the GIT starting from the mucosa. Mucosa is also constituted epithelium, lamina propria, and there is muscle layer in the mucosa called muscularis mucosa. This is the submucosa, and this is the muscularis propria, and also it is divided into circular and longitudinal and serosa. This is the general of the GIT, because there is other differentiation in each part. Like in the stomach, there is 3 layers of the muscle: circular, longitudinal, and oblique muscle. In discussing the enteric nervous system, this is the Erbach or myenteric plexus occurring between the 2 layers of the muscularis propria, between the circular and longitudinal layer, while the Meissner or submucosal, like its name, from its name, it is occur in the, or it's present in the submucosa of the GIT system. This is another picture. From this picture also we can see different layer of the GIT system. This different layer of GIT system, either starting from the inside to outside or from outside, this is serosa. Under the serosa, also the serosa can be divided into adventitia and the connective tissue. Under this there is 2 layers of muscle. There is circular, longitudinal, and then circular. In between these muscle, this is the myenteric nerve plexus, and also the blood vessels passing in this layer. After that, we will reaching the submucosa, then the mucosa. This is the gland, and also there is different gland. Most of the gland occur in the submucosa, while some of the gland also only in the mucosa. In the mucosa, it's consisting of 3 layers. There is also muscle layer in the mucosa called muscularis mucosa, and this is lamina propria and the mucosa. And there is, as we will discuss, or we can discuss the function of the GIT. One of the important function of the GIT is a protection from the bacteria. So the GIT tract contain mucus associated lymphoid tissue. From this 4 word, mucus associated lymphoid tissue, it is called MALT, M-A-L-T, MALT. So that sometimes the tumor occur in this part of the GIT, it is called maltoma, and it's also important in the protection of the gastrointestinal system. Now, after discussing general concept of the GIT, now we will discussing each part separately. We start with the mouth, or also called oral cavity. It is the entrance of the GIT. It is the hollow cavity that allow the food to enter the body. It's contain 3 parts. It's contain teeth, contain tongue, and also contain salivary gland. Salivary gland, it is 2 types: major salivary gland and minor salivary gland. The major salivary gland is paired, يعني زوج من الغدد. This is maybe there is 3 paired major salivary gland, which is the submandibular, sublingual, and parotid gland. While the minor salivary gland, there is many minor salivary glands distributed in the soft palate, in the palate, in the oral cavity, till reaching the pharynx. The functional unit of the salivary gland is called acinus, and there is the duct. Acinus is secreting or different ions and also water and bicarbonate into the duct. Duct will process this secretion, not only duct like other gland in the body. Duct only pass the content. No, in this type of the gland, the duct will process this content, and this duct may absorb some material and secrete different material and change the constituent of the secretion. And this change and this duct processing of the acinous secretion have maximum limit, have a limit. So when the secretion is at the resting stage and it is minor secretion, in the resting stage small secretion, so the duct have a time to process more, so the saliva will differ. While in active secretion, in case of the eating, in the time of the eating and ingestion of the food, the duct have no time to more processing of the secretion, so the secretion will differ. So why the secretion of the saliva differ in the resting stage or in the active stage. The salivary secretion is about 1.5 liters. It is important very in different, like it is important in the mixing, lubricating, and also in the protection, because it contains substance that antibacterial. It is also this is saliva, as we say, it is very important function in the lubrication. It is consist of water, electrolyte, bicarbonate, and also antibacterial substance, mucus, and also enzyme. And because the saliva contains enzyme, so the digestion of the food starts in the mouth. The enzyme which is present in the saliva is called salivary amylase, and it is important in the digestion. So we discussed in that is the digestion is different, the two type, either mechanical or chemical. So in the mouth there is two type of the digestion. In mechanical, from by the tongue, by the teeth, cutting of the food and mixing it with the saliva, and the mechanical digestion is by the salivary amylase. The production of the saliva, it's also have different neuron control. The neural control may be from the parasympathetic or from the sympathetic. The sympathetic control of the salivary secretion is very limited, while the main control is from the parasympathetic, and the parasympathetic outflow affect the sinus to increase the secretion, increase bicarbonate, and also increase the blood flow to the salivary gland and cause contraction of the muscle of the ducts, so increase the rate of the pushing or the expulsion of the saliva. Also increase the outflow, and as we say, the ductal processing or modification of the saliva differ according to the volume of the secretion. So in case of the at rest, the secretion of the salivary will be low volume, hypotonic, it is maybe neutral or slightly acidic, and also contain a few enzymes. While in case of stimulated, the tube have no time to more processing, so the saliva will be, as it is called, stimulated, so it is high volume, it is less hypotonic, it is become alkaline, the pH will increase, and it contain many enzymes that cannot be absorbed from the by the duct. After finishing the mouth, starting with the other part, which is the esophagus. Esophagus is hollow tube. It is about 25 centimeter long. It is between the mouth and the stomach. It is the upper part contain voluntary or voluntary muscle, while the lower 2/3 contain smooth muscle. بالعكس, the upper 2/3 contain stratified mucosa, lining of the esophagus, while the lower third, which is near the stomach, near the lower esophageal sphincter, slightly changed to the cuboidal epithelium like in the stomach. This type of the esophagus, it is important in the passage of the food from the mouth to the stomach by the process called swallowing. From the esophagus, the layers which is discussed in the previous slide, the adventitia, muscularis properia, submucosa, and mucosa. The process of the swallowing from the esophagus to the stomach have different stage, and you can see in different textbook, in different there is different classification of this stage. Some we can classify it as oral, pharyngeal, esophageal, and phase. Oral can be classified into oral preparatory and oral transport. Different nomenclature of this stages of the swallowing. For in this picture we can see the first step in the swallowing, which is the oral preparatory phase, and this is occur by mixing of the food with the saliva in the mouth, and then start with the in the first part. In the first stage there is elevation of the posterior part of the tongue to prevent the food to pass downward, and to allow more time for mixing of the food in the mouth, and the time of this phase is differ according to the type of the food. This phase is voluntary under our control. It's consisting of mastication. Then starting after complete of the mixing and cutting of the food, starting the other phase, which is the pharyngeal phase. From the pharyngeal phase, the food will passing posterior part of the tongue will pushing the food to the pharynx. When the food or bolus of food reaching the pharynx, there is a special receptor here. This receptor detect the pressure. So when detect there is bolus push on the wall of the pharynx, starting of the involuntary part stages of the swallowing. So when the food reaching the pharynx started with the many steps occur here. So this is first one, and the important one is the inhibition of the respiration, because the pharynx is the passageway for the pharynx from to the trachea and also to the esophagus. To prevent the food passing to the trachea, so you should inhibit the respiration, elevating the larynx to prevent the food pass or enter the larynx, and closing the vocal cord, closing the glottis, and opening of the upper esophageal sphincter. It is called the sphincter, but it is not a true sphincter. Then we start after the food reaching the esophagus, we starting the esophageal phase. On the esophageal phase, we return the 3 steps occur in the pharyngeal step. In this step, the respiration will return, the larynx will descend, and the food pass from in the esophagus to the stomach. The transition time in the esophagus is about 3 to 5 centimeters per second, and it is, as we say, it is about 25 centimeters. So the food take about 7 to 11 seconds to reach the stomach, to start to entering the other part of the alimentary tract. Now we discussing the stomach. Stomach is important part of the GIT system. It is a muscular organ. It is a bag-like, it is a reservoir important for the storage of the food for more processing. It's consisting of different parts. The upper dome, this is called fundus. Most part it is called the body. The body contains 2 curvature. The long one it is called greater curvature, and the small one it is called lesser curvature. and this is the pyloric part and the pyloric sphincter. As discussing the layer, it's also consisting of many layers. The unique or different layer present only in the stomach, in the muscularis propria, there is an oblique layer of the muscle, because the muscular organ, it's important. The stomach is very important in churning of the food, mixing of the food, and also the most important, discussing in the next slide, the function of the stomach. It is contain high acidity. This high acidity is important in the digestion and also important in the protection from the bacteria. Function of the stomach, it is for the first one is as reservoir to store the food. Esophagus, small intestine, large intestine, the food continuously propelled or pushed forward and processed, while in the stomach we can eat large volume because the process of the absorption is short and the food take many time to completely absorb, so it will stored in the stomach and small part pass from the stomach in each time for to the duodenum and continue to the small intestine and then to large intestine. So it is give time to the small intestine to more processing. So the reservoir function of the stomach is very important to take all the advantage from the food. The other part, it is the digestion, and as we say in the digestion is two part, either mechanical and chemical. Mechanical digestion of the stomach is very important because it's have powerful muscle, and it is important in the churning or mixing of the food, while the chemical digestion of the food in the stomach, it is have a small role, and this role done by the acidity of the stomach and the enzyme secreted by the stomach, which is the pepsin. It is secreted first by the inactive one, pepsinogen, and it is activated by the hydrochloric acid to the pepsin. The antibacterial action is very important as it is hollow organ. The food entering from the mouth, esophagus, may contain many bacteria, so the high acidity of the stomach, the acidity of the stomach may reach 0.9, or it is between 1.5 to 3.5 pH of the stomach, and it is about 5 million times the content of the hydrogen ion in the stomach, about 5 million times than the content in the blood. So how much it is high acidic. The other important function of the stomach is the absorption. The absorption in the stomach is very limited. Only small amount will be absorbed by the stomach. Some water, alcohol, and also some drug will absorb. The most also important function of the stomach is the production of the intrinsic factor. Intrinsic factor is a factor important in the absorption of the vitamin B12. Dietary source of the vitamin B12 will reach to the stomach. In the stomach there is mixing or bonding of this vitamin B12 with the special factor secreted by the stomach called intrinsic factor. Then this vitamin will be absorbed in the ileum, in the terminal ileum, but without the intrinsic factor no vitamin B12 will be absorbed. So in case if the patient have gastrectomy, no stomach in the body, the vitamin and end-to-end anastomosis, the vitamin B12 from the dietary source will reach the terminal ileum, but it will not absorb because no intrinsic factor. Now we discuss the most important unique function of the stomach is the production of the acidity, and it's important in different function of the stomach, in the digestion, in the protection. So the control of the acid secretion of the stomach it is controlled by different way, maybe by the autonomic, by the cephalic. There is different receptor present in them. There is also we should know there is different cell present in the mucosa of the stomach. This is taken in the histology of the stomach. Now there is different receptor for production of the or secretion of the hydrochloric acid. This is acetylcholine, gastrin, and histamine. Acetylcholine is the neurotransmitter of the vagus nerve of the parasympathetic system, while the gastrin, the second transmitter or the second receptor, there is a special cell in the stomach called G cell or gastrin cell. This secrete hormone, and this type of hormone, this type of cell is endocrine. We should know what is the difference between endocrine and exocrine. The gland that contain duct, it is called exocrine, like discussed previously, the salivary gland, while the gland that secrete without duct, secrete directly to the blood, it's called endocrine. So there is some endocrine gland within the GIT called and it's called as we discuss nerve supply, it is called entero nervous system or enteric nervous system. Also there is enteric endocrine. One of the endocrine gland in the stomach, it is the gastrin and G cell or gastrin cell, and secrete the gastrin. Both acetylcholine and gastrin act via calcium while the other is the histamine, and the histamine act via cyclic AMP. All of these receptors process the protein kinase, and this will be a very important pump, which is hydrogen potassium pump. This pump need an energy, so it is active transport, and by this pump the stomach, which is the main cell of the stomach, in a different cell, and the cell that secrete hydrogen, it's called parietal cell. The parietal cell secrete hydrogen. The hydrogen in the cell coming from CO2 with the H2O with the carbonic anhydrase enzyme produce H2CO3, and this H2CO3 will dissociate into hydrogen ion that will secrete it to the lumen, and the bicarbonate will be in the interstitial fluid. Also the chlor will be by this is a special pump that secrete the chlor from the interstitial to inside the cell until reaching the lumen, so the hydrogen will be connected with the chlor, so called hydrochloric acid. And discuss as the say, there is gastrin, acetylcholine, and histamine that control the secretion, and each receptor affected by different mechanism, may be affected by the vagus, and there is interchangeable affection between these. Each one will affected by the other one, and also affected by the gastric stimulation, affected by the small intestine stimulation. When the food reach the small intestine, will cause the inhibition or increasing the secretion of the gastric acidity, and also some factor will decreasing the acid production. One of the important factor is when the stomach complete its function, and empty stomach, the empty stomach with continuous hydrogen secretion will cause high acidity. This high acidity will inhibit the gastrin production from the G cell, and also when the food breaking down by the stomach, it is called chyme, and this chyme when passing to the small intestine, the first part of the small intestine, will there is a special reflex called enterogastric reflex. This is the enterogastric reflex is the inhibiting the stomach for more to decrease the secretion of the hydrogen. And also the chyme will stimulate enteroendocrine cell, as we say. One of the example is glycine. Other example of the enteroendocrine system in the GIT is secretion of the cholecystokinin and also other hormone called secretin. Both of these hormones will inhibit the secretion of the hydrogen ion. Important concept to discuss here. As we know, the stomach contains high acidity, and also the stomach contains enzyme that can digest. From other words, we know that the stomach, it is a muscle, it's a muscular tube. So why this acidity and this enzyme present in the stomach cannot digest the stomach itself, cannot digest the mucosa and the muscle and the walls of the stomach. This happened because of the mucus layer. The high acidity of the stomach preventing from reaching the mucosa or the walls of the stomach by the mucus layer. This mucus layer neutralizes the acidity, and the acidity only within the lumen but not touch the cells of the gastric, of the stomach. This mucus cell is secreting from different special cell which is called mucus secreting cell, and this is a mucus secreting cell. It is very abundant in the stomach, so it is very this is give the importance of the of this mucus for the function of the kidney to prevent the auto digestion of the stomach by the digestive enzyme. So as we know from we know why ulcer will occur in the stomach when there is abrasion, when there is defect in the mucus layer, mucus protecting layer, so the acidity will reach to the cell of the stomach, will causing the ulcer, and this ulcer, if not treated, even can perforate the stomach. Other important factor in the protection of the stomach from auto digestion, from digest itself, is the tight junction. When we discuss the renal system and the reabsorption of the different filtrate or different solute can occur either transcellular or paracellular, because there is a space between the cell. Here there is tight junction between the cell. There is no space, no substance or molecule can passes between the cell. This is important for the protection of the gastric cell from the acidity and the enzyme digestion of the present within the lumen of the stomach. Thank you for your listening.